On today's episode 27 of Sculpt N Create is one about courage, real courage, not the loud, flashy kind, but the kind that takes to bet on yourself when fear is loud, confidence is shaky, and the outcome isn't guaranteed. My guest today is Fortune Mazhambe, host of the Be Unafraid Podcast and founder of the Be Unafraid brand. Fortune is someone who lives the message he shared. After stepping into mixed martial arts and experiencing his first MMA fight in 2024 and facing a tough loss, instead of retreating, he leaned in. That moment became the catalyst for Be Unafraid, a platform built around self-improvement, confidence, and helping people take action on the life they keep imagining but haven't yet stepped into. In this conversation, we talk about what fear really costs us, how fitness can become the gateway to confidence and clarity, why failure isn't the opposite of success, but often the doorway to it, and how becoming unafraid isn't about eliminating fear, it's about moving forward anyway. We also get into Fortune's evolution as an amateur fighter, his transition into boxing, the mental battles that don't show up on the highlight reels, and what it really means to see yourself as a hero of your own story. If you ever felt stuck, if you ever talked yourself out of trying, or if you're standing on the edge of something you know you're meant to do, this episode is for you. And if you're listening right now, make sure you hit subscribe or follow and drop a comment with your biggest takeaways from the episode. All right, let's get into it. Welcome to Sculpt N Create, where fitness fuses creativity and helping artists, entertainers, and creators on their journey towards physical, personal, and career growth. I'm your host, Trader Fit Artist, and who I got with me today is Fortune Mazhambe. He's a host of the Be Unafraid podcast. Welcome to the show, Fortune.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here, ready to have a great chat.
Definitely, man. Yeah, I'm glad you can make it to as well. So before we get into it, man, let everybody know where they can find you and maybe partake in your services and listen, your podcast, so on and so forth. Basically set your links out.
Yeah, definitely. The best place to find me is the Be Unafraid podcast. So you can find me directly on YouTube or any podcast host that you have, whether it's Spotify or Apple Podcasts. So you can search that Be Unafraid podcast. That's kind of my main area where I create content there.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's get into it, man. Y'all check Fortune out. What is Be Unafraid, the Be Unafraid podcast? How did that come about? What's the story behind it?
That's a great question with the Be Unafraid podcast. So what we do at Be Unafraid podcast is really helping people through my story and my journey to build the confidence and the courage to really go after the things that they want and to try things, right? And to take those risks in order to grow yourself and become the version of yourself that you see inside of your head, right? So definitely in that self-improvement, personal growth area of the space there. So how Be Unafraid came upon is, the name says it all, be unafraid. I was a person who dreamt big, who had goals in my mind, who had visions of things that I wanted to be, not only in school back when I was in high school and university, but I had aspirations for business. I had aspirations to build my own company, build my own brand. I had aspirations for sports, right? So I was always active in that aspect, but I was always afraid to go out and actually put myself out there because I was afraid to fail in front of people. And I was afraid to fail in front of my friends and my family. And a lot of that I realized after a lot of years of really growth and search and constant failures in a lot of my life, that most of that was because I wasn't confident in my skills. I wasn't confident in my abilities. And I wanted to do these big things, but I just couldn't do it because I didn't have that extra layer of confidence that I needed to actually go out there and try things. And so I decided that I wanted to start with things that I can control in my life, right? So it started off with the physical aspect of it. What's the one thing that you can control in your life is what you do with your body. It's how you manage your body. And I am of the firm belief that it starts with movement. It starts with the body, because once you start to go to the gym, once you start to go out and run, once you start to go out and walk, you actually give yourself room to think. And when you start to see progress in your own self, you start to build a little bit of confidence, one brick at a time. So that's kind of where Be Unafraid came from. It came from my own fear of doing things. And then when I started to build up that confidence, I just wanted to tell people about it.
I understand, and that's coming from very, humble beginnings, because I definitely am relatable conditions, beginnings as well. Because when you start certain things, there's always that certain level of fear and nervousness that I believe stops us a lot from doing certain things. Like, how would we be, like you said before, how would we be perceived? What if I fail? And all the other things, finances and so forth, whatever the dream is and goal is, you thinking about all these things that could happen. And sometimes those are, maybe they could happen, but what if it doesn't? And I think when people don't go in, and when they give in to their fear, they get these what ifs, and then there goes regret, and it can lead to even more things, depression and so forth. So I always tell people, if it's something you really want to do, go for it. Everybody got a different way of, everybody's life is different. So whatever cards you dealt, you figure out how it is for you, but don't stop. Don't give up on your dream or your goal that you're trying to achieve in the same place, and so forth. Just because you will deal with lesser cards than this person don't mean you can't play with those cards, if that makes sense.
That makes 100% sense. Right.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to try. That's kind of become my motto now in my early 30s, right? Is don't be afraid to try. You don't lose anything by going and trying something and seeing whether or not you like it, because you might just surprise yourself and actually fall in love with that thing, right? And there's a lot of things that I've tried that I didn't enjoy. And then there's a lot of things that I've tried and I've enjoyed now, and I'm actually doing it more and more, right? And that is what I try to preach in Be Unafraid, is build that confidence, build that courage, and don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to try, because you'll never know the alternative if you just sit there and think about doing something, dream about doing something, watch other people do the thing that you want to do while you sit back and don't even go out there and try it.
Yeah, most definitely. So talk about that. Like, how did you start building that confidence way before Be Unafraid? You started Be Unafraid. Like, was that confidence built? And over time, what did you notice about yourself once that confidence was built? Like, what things started happening around, or what things started transpiring when you get your confidence grew, and you start taking more chances and risks and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll kind of roll it back all the way to my childhood when I was
Okay.
a kid. I was very energetic, had a lot of energy, had a lot of passion, had just all over the place, right? So, as you can guess, I was a very problematic child to my parents because I didn't listen to anything. And I always wanted to just go out and do things. And if I didn't have an opportunity to go out and do things, right, I would act out, obviously, like any kid who has energy does. So, one of the greatest gifts that I ever got was from my grandfather, who was my mother's father. He told my mother that this kid here, you're going to have major problems with him as he grows up if you just keep him in the house all day and don't give him anything to do. What I want you to do is to go to his school, and I want you to enroll him in every single sport that you can find in school. So from a young age, I was in tennis, soccer, swimming, cricket, track and field. I was doing all of those things. And what that did for me from an early age is that it started to, one, give me an outlet to burn that energy. That way, when I got home, right, I wasn't much of a problem. But also, it started to build confidence early on. And that's what sports does. And for a lot of people that are fortunate enough to be able to play sports, they understand that in sports, it's all about working hard. It's all about who can suffer more than the next guy, right? Who can endure more pain than the next guy. And that builds confidence. When you're in there putting in hours into something and training, and you start to win, you start to win, you start to become more confident. And then you also have to understand the other side of sports is failure, is loss. When you lose, how you deal with that is going to shape how you're going to deal with losses in other areas of your life. So getting that experience as a kid, losing a lot, and then ultimately winning a lot too, started to build a level of confidence that made me feel like I could do almost anything, right? And I carried that into high school. I carried that into college. And it wasn't until after college when I started working, right? I
Mm-hmm.
stopped doing all those sports. I wasn't in as many competitions as I used to be. I got into the grind, right? I got into the process that everybody gets into, get a job, 9 to 5, go to work, come home, too tired to do anything else, watch Netflix all day, all those things. And then just things in life started happening, personal things, right?
Mm-hmm.
You lose people in life, you
Mm-hmm.
make mistakes in life, and you start to build up all of these things that slowly tear down your confidence. And that's the area that I was in specifically about 5, 6 years ago, where I wasn't feeling confident anymore because I wasn't doing those things and just feeling like things in my life, things happening to people that were close to me, and maybe I could have done something about it, but I didn't at that time. It just makes you feel like a coward and it really chips at that confidence. So for me, I went through that rough patch, and ultimately we had the year of COVID, right? Where everything got shut down. Everybody got shut down. Everybody got back to their house. And we all really had a chance for the first time in a while to sit back and think about our lives. We had no choice but to sit at home and think about our
Oh,
lives.
definitely.
And right around that time, I had stopped working out. Around that time, like most people were doing, I was just sitting at home eating uh, not healthy, junk food, a lot of sweets, right? And gaining a lot of weight. So that was the first time in my life where I was quote unquote out of shape, right? From being an athlete, as any athlete would know, if you're playing sports all your life, you're in pretty good shape most of the time. But when you get out of shape, it was something very different for me because all of a sudden now I didn't like the image that I was seeing in the mirror. And I started getting back into physical fitness, but it wasn't consistent. I would go for 2 days, then I would get right back into non consistency and not working out. I would go for 3 days, I'd go for 2 weeks, right? And it wasn't consistent. And at that time, that's when I reached out for the first time in my life and said, you know what, I think I need accountability. I think I need somebody who can be there for me and tell me that, hey, you've got to go work out today. Hey, what you're feeling is okay. Here's a plan. You don't have to think about it. We'll make it together and we'll go about it together. And that's where I met you,
Right.
Trey, right? Since you are also my fitness
Right.
trainer as well. So meeting you at that time gave me a new sense of energy because now it wasn't me trying to get myself out there and go do something. It was somebody else saying, hey, what do you want to work on? What are you unhappy about? Okay, I can fix that for you. I can help you with that. Let's do this. Let's eat like this. Let's work out like this. And for the accountability, let's measure progress every week. Let's take pictures here. So that got me very excited again to get back into physical fitness. And then through that journey, I started to find myself more and more. And all of a sudden, like I mentioned before, that confidence
Yeah.
started to build back up again.
Yeah.
And when you start to feel good and you start to look good and you start to build more confidence, all of a sudden, now I'm thinking about business ideas. Now I'm thinking about launching a podcast. Now I'm thinking about doing XYZ, right? Because of that confidence. So that's why I'm a big proponent that it always starts with the body for me. The
Okay.
body is first because that's the thing you can control the most. And that's where that confidence comes from for me.
Okay. And yeah, and I like how you put all that in there, and I like how that started with the body to going towards everything. And I always told you before too that I always use you. Anytime I'm using it, you as an example, I always everybody's like, well, what's your shining moment in your career as a fitness coach and stuff like that? I always mention you. I like, man, because you are always you are the embodiment. I've told you this too as well, that you are the embodiment of what I envision next world fitness to be, where you are, started on a fitness goal. That was one thing. But once you got into it and seeing, start being into the fitness world, it opened up other possibilities that you never thought was possible and everything. It gave you, like you said, again, gave you that newfound confidence to do other things. And you seeing yourself in a certain way. You're more disciplined in a certain way. So that makes you move differently as well. So, and it opens up those next, like I said, the next and next word fitness. It opens up those next possibilities in your life once you have fitness and once you adopt fitness into your lifestyle. So definitely. And other things that you said too, sports. I have mentioned this on a couple of my episodes. That sports definitely segues into everything we do in life because it's fitness in there too as well. So definitely, if you making it in sports and you've been doing it for a long time, it ain't that hard to put those same principles and moral values and ethics and work into it, and work ethics and stuff like that into whatever you're trying to achieve and so forth. So that's why I think a lot of people in sports, like when they move, they go into business most of the time because they bring those same principles and values and everything that they learned in the sport that they was in. Another thing that you were saying too, that I think too, that when it comes to, like you said, you kind of fail when you grown, you start doing the adult thing that you were wanting to do, and you kind of start growing more and more. And I won't say you probably resent it, but you wasn't attached to those childhood dreams that you had or the vision that you had and so forth. So you embodying what you think you should act like and should feel and should do as an adult, and try to put away the other dream that you had. So I think too, because I felt that too. Like I said, with when it comes to the COVID, I think a lot of us found ourselves in the COVID. There was a whole weird transitioning phase for a lot of people. It's like the curtain was unveiled for a lot of people in certain areas and so forth. But yeah, so I attribute it akin to like when I said I started making music and started writing. Like I said, I haven't got anything out yet, but I do got quite a few songs and so forth. But when I started doing that during COVID, I was like, this was I was thinking about. I was like, I need to get back to that young Trey, that childhood Trey, dreams and stuff like that. I need to talk to that person. Because that's why I think we forget about what our childhood dreams is and so forth. When we become an adult, we think that's childish things, and we need to put away with that. And those dreams were just what they was, pipe dreams. Those wasn't realistic. But that's really was our essence of who we was, and we just need to really like step into it as an adult. But we sway away from that. That makes sense?
That makes sense. 100%. And tapping back into that child, right?
Mm-hmm.
I resonate with that quite a lot. Because as a child, we have an active imagination. That's the one thing that children have that I wish more adults would have, is the ability to imagine just random things. And then they are able to put themselves in that world and see themselves as that thing. And as kids, right, we think it's amazing, but then as adults, we lose that. We lose that, and we start to try to be more practical, to be more grounded, to be more in reality and factual. And I think we lose a lot, to be honest. We lose a lot because most of those dreams are where people that become great are made, right? All of these great people that you see, these great athletes, these great performers, all of these people, they dream and then they act upon those dreams. Yeah. So tapping back into that child is something that I've had to do, and I've had to look back and say, where did I stop along the journey dreaming? Because to your point, there was a certain point in my life a couple of years ago where I couldn't even see myself doing the things that I'm doing now with combat sports, fighting, mixed martial arts, and boxing, or even doing the things that I'm doing now with the Be Unafraid podcast and posting content on YouTube and social media. And all of those things are things that we need to make sure that we cherish and really do not take for granted.
Oh yeah, most definitely, man. And it's just crazy why we do that, because and sometimes in instant we are like, if a child has a dream, sometimes some of us will kill that in that child. We don't see ourselves doing it, or nobody in our family doing it. Oh, you can't do that, and so forth. And then they start to believe it and grow up and grow with that in their head and thinking as an adult that they can't achieve their dreams, and then they don't know why they upset. They don't know why they depressed and stuff like that. Because now I'm not a mental expert, but it could be sometimes it could be certain things like that they didn't resolve in their childhood that they should, like, come to light and get help for. But I'm just saying those could be some of the things. And I know every time I like I said, I always had a dream to write, make music and stuff like that. Basketball was a dream, and acting and so forth. But I put that away because I was just thinking about what my family would think in me making music and all that stuff like that. Because the background I come from a religious church background and so forth. So, and that was in the back of my mind, but it didn't never leave me. I'm always thinking, like, if I seen something, that if I heard a song that inspired me, they put out a instrumental on the song or whatever. I'm writing to it and stuff like that. I even made a jingle for my business and so forth. So it was always in my head, and until COVID happened, like, that's when the epiphany broke in. And I don't want to get into the whole story, but when I met with a producer who said, he said, man, I like it was Big Crit. He had a song challenge out on a song that he had out, and I wrote to that, and then I recorded myself doing it. And then I didn't win or anything. It is well, he didn't pick me or anything. But a producer had hit me up. Maybe he was trying to sell his beats and stuff like that or whatever. But he had said, man, I think you got something and everything. And then we kind of, we met up and everything. He eventually became my client for a short time. But then after he left, he gave me some beats and so forth. And he was like, man, I really meant what I said. I believe you believe you got something. And he gave me some beats to work with and everything. And I took that as a sign. I was like, okay, look. And there's a little right just before COVID, or right in it, in the heart, right at the start of it. But it was a little bit before. But that's when it took off there when COVID happened. I just wasn't nothing to do, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just writing up a storm and everything. So that's how I was born from there. So I definitely agree, and like I said, definitely relatable as well to that. Now with you doing the Be Unafraid podcast, like, what sort of things do you talk about on that podcast?
Yeah, definitely anything that you would think of in self-improvement, right? It's about taking that next step and building yourself up to the next level. So the audience that I talk to mostly, for the most part, are those people that are living their lives in the day-to-day grind.
Okay.
But deep inside, they feel like they want to do something more. Deep inside, they have a passion, a hobby, a side hustle that they want to do, but they feel stuck because they don't see themselves having the skills or the abilities to do that thing. So they look at other people and wonder in their minds, what if that was me? Or another thought that they have is, there's no way I can do that. I would love to do that, but I can do that. And a lot of that is confidence, lack of confidence, like I've been talking about, right? That's the major thing we talked about on Be Unafraid, is having that confidence to conquer those emotions and those fears, and to be able to set out to do something that you want to do, and not care what other people will think about you, even if it's your friends, even if it's your family, even if it's your coworkers, right? And not be afraid of judgment. And one of the awesome things that I've read is a book by Mel Robbins, and it's called Let Them. She's got the let them theory, and that completely changed how I thought about people's opinion. And she talks about using just those words, let them. I want to go do this thing. They're going to think XYZ about this. Let them think that. And then you also have to say, now let me go do this. And then you go do it. Right. Yeah. And that takes a long time to develop. I think you can probably agree with that. It takes a long time to develop that ability to just say, let them do that. Let them say that, let them make fun of me, let them ignore me, whatever it is. And that's what I try to help people with on Be Unafraid Podcast, is pump out content that makes them move, that inspires them to change, and that makes them feel that they have something that they can bring into this world. And to understand that life is like a story is kind of how I like to look at it. And each and every day, there's a page within your life that's being written. You can either sit back and let fate dictate what that story is, right? And it will. A lot of people think that when they sit back and do nothing, they're safe and that their life is just staying the same. That's not true. When you sit back, you're losing time. When you sit back, you're losing the opportunities that could be out there if you were out there, right? So helping people understand that you can co-write your life with fate. You do have the ability to pick up a pencil and start to write some of the things that you want to do and actually start to live it. And ultimately, it comes down to you and it comes down to a personal choice because people will be there for you. Your parents will be there for you, right? Your siblings can be there for you, but ultimately, nobody can do it for you. Nobody can wake up for you. Nobody can go work out for you. Nobody can eat healthy for you, right? Nobody can start a business, start a podcast for you. So helping people understand that it becomes a personal choice and a personal journey for you to decide every day that I am going to go do this. That's what I preach about on Be Unafraid podcast. And that's what I try to help other people build in their lives.
And that's great that you're doing that too. But the thing, there's something people need to hear more and more to break out of they sometimes it's not even the outlier sources like the family, friends, and so forth. Sometimes it's ourselves too. Speaking to that person and letting them know that they can do it is another thing, you know. So and it helps greatly because no, they need to hear it more. They need a reaffirming in themselves, but hearing that out another perspective, as you said, with Mel Robbins helping you and everything, but got to go and do the work too as well. What I think about that, I was finna to come up with that. Is to do the hard thing. To do the thing is hard. To not do it is also hard. So you got to choose your hard. And stuff like that. And when it comes to doing what it is, all of it's gonna be hard, no matter what it is that you're trying to achieve and accomplish. But don't let that stop you. If it's something that's worth having, if you're passionate about it, you really love doing what you want to do, then go for harder and don't look back. But so with the Be Unafraid podcast, is it a particular type of person you reaching, or is it anybody who has a dream, has a goal, or stuck at something that they or afraid of something or moving forward, whatever that may be?
Yeah, it's exactly the latter person is anybody that has that goal and they feel stuck and
Okay.
they don't feel like they within themselves have it to do that thing. And to your point, right?
Mm.
Self-talk, negative self-talk, that is probably going to be the biggest battle for this person. They're sitting there talking negatively about themselves. They're sitting there telling themselves they're not good at this thing. They can't do this thing. Nobody in their family has done this thing. They come from a background where we don't do these types of things, right?
Mm.
And it's all that negativity that builds up over the years. It builds up and it now shapes a false reality in your mind of you think that your life is just this one little lane and this one little square, and that's
Yeah.
all you have to go.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have so much more inside of them. And it starts, as I mentioned, with your body, right? But also when we dip into the mental aspect of it, it starts with how you talk to yourself because you are the person that talks to yourself the most. Your mind is the thing that is always there every time on time. So what your mind tells you is very important. If your mind tells you get up and go do this because you can, you're going to get up and go do this because you can. If it tells you you can't, then chances are you're not going to be able to do it, right? Or you're going to drag and then ultimately give up. So it's all part of that person that I talk to is going through all of that. And essentially, right, it's a human being. As humans, we
Mm-hmm.
have these emotions. As humans, we have these things. And a lot of us carry a lot of baggage from
Right.
our past and how we were raised and our families, our friends. So everybody's different. Everybody has a different journey and a different battle to fight. And I truly believe that we all can fight it. different ways. So I don't really particularly talk about, hey, you have to fight it this way and do this. Now, with my own journey, my own story, I do share some of my struggles and how I fight through things and ultimately build myself up. But I'm a firm believer that we all uniquely can tackle some of these things, and we just have to really make a conscious effort of figuring that out.
Right. And I think too, telling our own story makes it relatable to that person as well to make, okay, if he got through this and he was thinking this, then I can do it too as well. And, and then so just really just talking about the ways that you did it as well helps people along instead of being that person already at the top, already got it figured out and saying you do this, oh, that's easy for you. You ain't had no issues and so forth. So, and I think too, going and not necessarily having it all figured out, but going into it where you still making mistakes and talking about those mistakes as you go on. Look, I'm trying to do this. This didn't work out as I planned. Because I think you're always going to be a level of pushback or internal resistance. Check out Cam Knight episode that I did. He was talking about what we talking about in the sense as well. But I think, we should speak on that because it would definitely have, even though we did the thing that we wanted to do or confronted our fears and so forth, it's still sometimes where we have those sense of doubt or a sense of a type of resistance or thinking it's not going to work or having those failures. I think those need to be talked about as much as the successes and the accomplishment we have too as well to help people out and everything on that matter. So with that said, how long have you been doing Be Unafraid podcast?
Been doing Be Unafraid podcast for about a year consistently now.
Okay.
And I was trying to do it before, right?
Okay.
But I wasn't consistent.
Okay. Going right into the story.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Tried to do a couple of different channels too as well on various different things, but just not consistency and just not understanding what I wanted to do at the time and just being afraid, right, to put content out there. And it's interesting. You said that talking about your failures too is really important. And a lot of people will resonate with that more than successes, right? Funny enough, that's how the Be Unafraid podcast, the content creation started, like officially. Before I was trying to post things about, brand building, marketing, business, and all that stuff like that, which is great and awesome. But Be Unafraid came out of me losing my first mixed martial arts fight, right? And I think we can get into that too as well.
Yeah, there's gonna be there.
Right. And so that was built upon failure, right? One could look at it and say, oh, you lost the fight, right? Therefore, you failed at this thing. So you just failed. Or you can look at it this way. Yes, I failed at winning the fight, but look what's come out of it. Look what's come out of it. I've built this platform. I've built this level of confidence. For the first time in my life, I was actually raw and authentic and expressed my emotions on camera to people. All of my friends and family saw the video I made after I failed to win my first mixed martial arts fight. And the reception from people was a lot different than I actually thought it would be, right? More people resonated with that than I initially thought. I thought people would be, all the things that we're afraid about. You think people are going to laugh at you, right? You think people are going to poke fun at you. You think people are going to think you're a loser, you're a coward, call you names. But then what you don't realize is people fail in their lives too, and they do a great job at hiding it. And when they hear somebody who's talking about their failures, you start to get DMs, you start to get comments of people saying, man, I went through XYZ and it's awesome to see you bounce back from here, man. Keep it up. And it's like, oh, wow. Okay. So people do live life and fail a lot. So failure is not something that feels good. So I never preach that, hey, you should go love to fail. I know some people do. When I fail, it sucks, to be honest, right? It sucks emotionally. You feel embarrassed and you get emotional. But the thing is, how you bounce back from that failure is the key, right? Yes, fail, wallow a little bit, and then you bounce back and you say, okay, what can I pull out of this failure and grow from?
Right. Yeah.
And what can I now improve upon? That way, next time I don't fail in that way, or I build off of that, right? So that is how I start to look at life, and you start to think of failing completely different. It just opens you up to start to try things and realize that when you fail, it's not the end of everything, right? When you fail, it's just the beginning of something. And one of my favorite quotes is actually, I like to read books, especially fantasy books.
Okay.
It's from a book called The Way of Kings.
Mm-hmm.
Those that like to read fantasy will probably know this, but it's about a character in the book that used to be essentially this tyrant and this
Okay.
warmonger in the world. And he ultimately loses his brother in life, and he goes through a bout of depression, right? And now he's trying to figure out how to move in life now that he's got responsibility of this thing that he's inherited from his brother, this kingdom. So he has to try to figure out how to be a better person and be a better man. And there's a constant question that he always asks himself, and it's always a vision that he's getting, is what is the best step a man can take after failing, after loss, after suffering? And he always tried to answer it and always got it wrong because he was overthinking it. But ultimately, the answer was the best step a man can take is not the first step. It's not the second or third step. It's always the next step.
I like
That
that.
is always the best step to take. So when you fail, take the next step. What's next? Right.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. I was thinking when you were talking about a quote, I was thinking of a quote too as well. But I agree. Is another one because every time we fail, that's a new lesson of like what we need to do to get better. I can't think of who the person who made the quote, but like say he failed at something 70 times. I'm just making up a number. So he said, I haven't failed 70 times. I have learned 70 ways not how to do it, and everything. So that he learned from those failures. So I that go into what we were saying. And I think too, again, to your point too, here, not a lot of us are transparent and about our failures, and that make it less genuine to people when they only see your successes and they think it's all rainbows and sunshine with your life, and they not seeing what the decisions you make, the heartache you make, the work you put into it, the constant no's, the constant failures, and all this stuff behind it, and they don't know that, so they thinking that once they do go into it, they need to already be smooth sailing when they first start something, and that's not how life works. That's not how it goes, and so forth. So I believe being more transparent helps more people than it is talking about the successes all the time. That's important, but the failures I feel too are more important because they are learning moments not only for you but for somebody else too that can avert those the path that you went. Like, okay, I did this, so you don't have to go through it, so and so to speak. So I think that that's something that need to be talked about more, or being more transparent about our accomplishment, our accomplishments as well as our failures is what I'm saying. Now, since you've been doing it consistently for a year, you say you have gotten the people who reached out to you and said, man, this, what would you say has the biggest comment or reply or message to you where you don't help somebody out since starting Be Unafraid Podcast?
Yeah, definitely. As I mentioned, I do get a lot of comments from
Mm-hmm.
people that talk about how much they needed to hear the message that I was spreading, right, on building confidence and self accountability. One of the biggest ones I can think of
Mm-hmm.
that I got from somebody was someone who, and for me, it was very interesting and unexpected and very surprising that this was how my videos were helping somebody. Because when I
Yeah,
make these things, right,
yeah,
I'm coming at it from my own perspective and my own
right,
journey and my own lessons. So I'm sharing how things work for me in certain areas of my life. And I'm thinking that it's going to help someone who's doing the same things that I'm doing. But I didn't realize that that message goes to people who are doing so many other things that I, don't even do in life. And they pull something out of that. So there was a person who commented that actually they've been wanting to go out and buy a house for years now. They have a good job. They have the money to do it. They, it's not going to be a dumb decision or anything, right? It's something that they can do it comfortably and be able to afford. But because of past experiences and just growing up with their family and all of some traumatic things that happened in their lives with housing, they were too afraid to go out and bet on themselves to go make this big purchase and understand that they have the ability to actually maintain it and keep it, right? They're afraid to lose it, right? And so commented on there that he's been listening to my podcast for a while and he's been doing a lot of self thinking and realizing that there really isn't all that much that they're afraid of. The thing that they're afraid of the most is that they'll end up the way that their parents ended up, right? And them realizing that you're a different person. And again, you have the ability to write your own story, right? You have the ability to take ownership of your own story and dictate how you want it to be different from that past. So he decided to go out and go make that purchase and put the down payment on the house, and he did. And he commented on there and said he felt so good about it, so relieved, and he's looking forward to getting the house prepared and working on the house. So I was not expecting that, not expecting like that type of decision to come out of the content that I made, right? Which was that was extremely shocking to me, but it also put it into perspective that a lot of people are just waiting to hear words that can help them move. And if I can provide that for my own personal, honest, and authentic story, then by all means, I'll continue to make episodes. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, man. I love that, man. Yeah, keep doing your thing. You helping people, man. If you like doing it, man, and you genuine, keep doing it. And which I'm not saying you're not, but you get what I'm saying. But keep doing what you doing your thing, and definitely great things will come from it. Now, piggybacking off that, I think this is a great segue to the MMA. Is I definitely can relate to what you were just saying. You thinking your words and seeing your words take an effect of a person. You really just, you just speaking your truth and so forth, but it definitely helping somebody out. Now, with you going into the MMA and doing it, and I remember when you said you would never have thought of doing this if you didn't meet me. And so that was one thing that like, okay, wow. Those type of things that when I hear people like say that about they reach a certain goal, they say thank you, Trey, and this, that kind of type of things helps me to keep going. Like if I, sometimes I get in my head sometimes where like, okay, should I be doing this, or is this, or should I be doing this, or am I the right person to be doing this, stuff like that, or whatever, or should I just leave it alone, go, stuff like that. But every time I hear a person, can you help me, or or sometimes I meet somebody on the street and they telling me they heard me say this about that and they start doing that, then that lets me know, okay, cool, I'm in the right place when I need it. I'm reaching people and they are hearing me. They might not be telling me personally, but they are hearing me. Lets me know and helps me to keep going longer, because this is a field, being a fitness coach or being in the fitness industry, definitely a cutthroat type of field. It's very, it's very, crazy, but so it can get to you sometimes. But I really love what I'm doing. I'm very passionate about it, and the people that I'm helping, I would definitely, like to see people win and reach their goals. So, like I said again, that's the reason why Next World Fitness was created, in those aspects. But with that said, I think with us being working with each other for so long, I think we've been evolving closely to around the same time. Like we always, like you would say, I'm gonna do this, and then I'm like, okay, I'm doing this. You know what I'm saying? I think we've been, and that's constantly, I think, is another segue again, or right in alignment with what we're talking about for its Next World Fitness and everything that it encompasses and helping to that fit world. Not only with what it did for me in my life, for my fitness goals and me starting a business and everything, but how it help you when you reach the goal and now you start MMA. So again, segue into the MMA. Let's talk about that. So how did that come to be? You say you got the confidence as we were talking about earlier. What prompted that thought, that newfound confidence? And let me do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a great question and a very interesting journey because mixed martial arts, MMA, not only changed my life, in my opinion, but saved my life, I believe.
Okay, now
Because,
that's new to me right there. Okay, go
yes,
ahead. All right.
it saved my life in the sense that at the time that I discovered mixed martial arts, right? As I mentioned, I was going through some personal battles with family, and
Okay.
there was a point in my life, probably around maybe 2022, 2023, where some things happened in my life, and I was not there for people that were close to me, right? And I was not as involved and should have done some things about it, but I didn't at the time because I was afraid to do all of that. So I was feeling like a coward at the time that, this negative thing happened to someone that's close to me and I didn't do anything about it. What type of person does that, right? So I was going through all
Mm,
that negative self talk. And at the time, you and I were still working together, right? We were still doing our fitness. And that was the one thing that anchored me during that point, right? As I mentioned, for me, physical fitness and sports have always been my outlet during that time. So I met somebody, and what got me into MMA was me not being afraid to try and me saying yes, right? Through physical fitness, I met a friend in the gym world, right? And,
yeah.
as I'm working out, she would also work out, give me tips on plyometrics and stuff like that, just interesting things. And one day, just out of the blue, she was like, have you ever tried to fight before? I was like, no, I've never tried to fight. I just lift and I do sports and things of that nature. And she's like, well, I take this boxing class at this guy who has a boxing gym, and I think he does MMA. I'm not sure, but would you like to come and train and have a class with me? And I was like, sure, I'll do it. Not once in my life have I ever thought I would be fighting mixed martial arts or boxing or any type of combat sports, right? I was always risk averse. So I was always trying to protect myself. But at that time, I needed something for me to go in and feel less of a coward and build that confidence back up. And I wanted to develop that fighter mentality because, as I mentioned to you, at this point in my life, I was not feeling like a fighter at all. I didn't feel like a person who could be trusted to be there for other people. I didn't feel like I could trust myself to be there for myself. So I was searching and looking for anything that would give me that confidence. And I was working out a lot, which was my outlet to build that. But I felt like I needed something else, right? And so I just said yes. I just said yes and went, did that boxing class that day. And I just remember sitting in the office of later who became my coach, sitting in there with him. And he was talking to me about signing up to train at the gym. And I'm very interested. And then all of a sudden he asked me, you can also fight. I train fighters here and we
Yeah.
compete for
Okay.
mixed martial arts. And I was like, wait, whoa, hold on, hold on here. What do you mean? I like the boxing class. I like the conditioning.
Going
And
too
he's like,
fast.
exactly.
Yeah.
And because we were working out together, right? I looked really good. My body was good. I was in shape, right? He's like, dude, you look like you can fight right now, which is not true at all at the time, right? So I was like, you know what? Let me try it. Let me try it. Let me just say yes. Let me
Yeah.
sign up. Let me try.
Yeah.
And that's how I got into mixed martial arts. And I started training boxing, started training kickboxing, jujitsu, learning all of these things that I had never done before. And
Mm,
anybody who's ever trained in combat sports knows that if you're coming into it late in the game, at the age that I was coming into at the age of 28, which is very late, by the way, to start the
okay.
sport,
Okay.
most people start this some sort of fighting at a very young age or in their teens, right? And by the time they get to my age, they've developed all of these different instincts and movements, right? But starting it late as an adult, and if you're not someone who's been in fights before and who's had to face somebody else who's coming at you full
Yeah.
speed, it's very difficult to stand there and actually have the confidence to say, I can defend myself, I can move around, right? I can be able to counter and be able to hit back and actually win the fight. So it's a scary, scary thing and a
Right.
very difficult thing to do. And a lot of people don't want to get in there and compete, and it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody to do competitions. For conditioning, I believe it is. So I started taking it and I started falling in love with it. I started falling in love with the process. And I think what it was is it gave me now a mission to go after. It gave me something to improve in my life. It gave me somewhere to put that energy, right? When I'm over there. As I mentioned to you, I was a child with a lot of energy. That never changed. I'm still an
Yeah.
adult that has a tremendous amount of energy and it has to go somewhere.
Right.
So mixed martial arts gave me that platform. And all of a sudden, one day, my coach sat down with me and he said, there is a fight coming up in a couple of months. And I want you to fight for me. You're one of the fighters. You're one of the best conditioned here. And you've picked this up very well. And I think you're ready to have your first fight. And that was
Mm.
crazy to me.
Yeah.
That was crazy to me. And I had no confidence to say yes at the time. Right. I told him I'd think about it. And he said, I think you're ready. And I never really told him yes,
Mm.
I would fight. But what I decided to do at that time is, you know what? I'm going to choose to not wait until I quote unquote feel ready, but I'm
Right.
going to choose to believe in his belief of me that
Yeah.
I'm ready, since I trust him and he's my coach. So if he thinks I'm ready to do it, let's do it. And that's how I started training for my first mixed martial arts fight.
Right. Man, and it's crazy. Like a girl had invited me to do a jujitsu class one time, and it was more so they was what they were practicing with us at the time was like how to fall and get back up. That's what we was doing. And she had already did some competitions and stuff like that before. She was already in it a little bit, but she was out of it for a while too as well. But she was just, I guess, just doing that for the time being. But I didn't get that same epiphany you had. You know what I'm saying? It was cool, and everything like that. But I was definitely out my element. She kind of wanted to see me working out a lot and everything, and she wanted to see me in a different element, and stuff like that. Now whatever. But it was cool though. I liked it and everything, but it wasn't like I didn't get that same thing. So let me fight, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. But she did say they had told the kind of the same thing that what you said or whatever. I'm like 250, 255 and stuff like that. They looked at me and they were telling her, she told me later, she said, man, like who gonna fight him? She's like, who gonna mess with him? And everything he big, and stuff like that. But she said, but it was cool though. But I like that you definitely said that, like when somebody, presented to you, you went into it and tried it. I think like again, that goes into what we were always saying, that we don't try anything. You may not be good at it, you may not like it, but I was telling my son this all the time. He think he got to be already good at it before he do it. Like man, you don't even know nothing about it. So like how how you're gonna be good? You always shut things down, and that and I wouldn't call that a fear, but it's some kind of resistance there that he had and everything. And I think people too look at it like, that, it could be, you never could be blocking what you're truly good at. Cause I think that's another thing that he struggled with, finding what's him and everything outside of video games that is, you know what I'm saying? But finding what I think people need to hear that too, like finding their thing. And that comes from trying things, saying yes to things a lot more instead of being more reserved, or like you were saying, you were more risk averse than anything. Being more reserved and trying to keep yourself in a safe zone, or in a quote unquote comfort zone. I talked about this too as well. The comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing grows there. So we constantly, that is a quote I seen. I don't want to take credit for it, but that's what the quote was about. So I think that when people stay in that comfort zone, it seem okay. Then they kind of start resenting it and regretting later on that I didn't get to do that thing that I said I wanted to do, or see about this and stuff like that. And I think that, like I said, important for people to hear and so forth. So with MMA, so you got into it. I remember you telling me about it. And I was like, okay, man, let's do it. I had worked with a couple of athletes and I was like, I like, okay, cool. It's like, I guess I'm going back into the, athlete thing as well. Like, so I said, well, they basically, all right, tell me what the coach said,
what we need to work on, and then we got into it. From when you first started and got to like, what was you feeling? Was you feeling like, should you back out, or nah, I'm gonna do this? Or when you start getting them punches, getting them body slams, because I know that all I was doing is practicing falling, and they say you gotta do this, so no matter kick you in the face and stuff like that as you getting up, you know, and there you gotta have a way of getting up and stuff like that, or I think it was something like that. It was saying how you get up, you gotta get up and block your face and stuff like that. I don't know if you heard me. I'm getting at the mic,
Yep.
but yeah, so like, but actually getting hit, body slammed, and all locked up and everything. What was you going through your mind once you started really getting into it? Like, what was you feeling then?
Yeah. No, very, very great question. Because there's two different types of trainings, in my opinion. There's the training that you do normally, right? You go out there, you drill, you go through all those drills, how to fall, right? In jiu-jitsu class, how to fall, how to get back up, how to box, how to kickbox, and all of those things. And a lot of it is conditioning. A lot of it is just getting you those muscle fibers, right, to start to remember all of those movements. So that training there is fun. That's a fun training. That's what most people do. And then there is the next layer of training, right? And that is fight camp. That's a very different type of training. And anybody who's gone through any type of training camp for any sport really knows that the whole purpose of that is to get your body to the absolute most tired and brutalized stage as you possibly can, and then still go that next step. That's any good coach. They're trying to get you there, because what they're trying to do is simulate what happens in a real fight, right? There's a point, if a fight goes long enough, where it becomes less about who knows more, and it becomes more about who has more heart and who wants it more. And so that's what that training does. So that training, I would not call it fun. I would not call it fun at all, right? There are people that think it's fun, and those people are just absolutely monsters and just built differently. Some people are just built differently in life, right? But I would not call it fun, because what that training does is just hard every single day. You have to get to the point where you understand that that is just the way it is. It's hard because it's supposed to be hard, and that's okay. So me learning how to take punches, me learning how to take body shots, me learning how to get kicked in the head without protecting my head, right? That'll teach you real quick how to block kicks, right? Learning how to do takedowns and wrestling and all of those things. That process is fun. But as I mentioned, the fight camp aspect of it is extremely exhausting, extremely brutalizing, but there is a beautifulness within that process. There's something that's just addictive, in the sense that you start to see how much you're capable of doing. You think you're working hard until you get to the point where you are about to give up. And then you hear the words of your coach that one more round, and then you go one more round. And then it does something to you mentally where, again, it builds that confidence and that courage that when I think I'm done in life, in any aspect of life, whether you're in a job, whether you're in 9 to 5, you're doing a different sport, you're working on a project, you're pursuing a business. When you feel like you're done, most of the time, you're really only about 40, 50, 60% of the way there. You still have a lot more in the tank, right? So it starts to build that thought process, and that carries over not only from sports, but into life. It carries over into your career, into your relationships. And that's where you see people that you haven't seen in a while, and they've gone and started training at something, that come back and you're like, man, you've changed, right? You've changed. Not really. They've grown is what they have. And they've become, exactly, and they've evolved, and they've become a more confident person. So that's what mixed martial arts did for me, is it took me from that one level, and exactly as Next World Fitness talks about, it took me to the next world where there were endless opportunities for me to be able to do that. So going in there and going through camp, there's 3 questions that I asked myself, and I learned this from a sports psychologist, not my psychologist, but it's a psychologist I watched on YouTube, and his name is Bill Bessick. He's from England, and he's ran some of the most successful sports in England, and he's trained Olympic gold medalists, right? And he said there's 3 questions that he asks his clients that come to him and tell him they want to be a champion or they want to be great at the sport. The first question is, what do you want? You have to be clear about what do you want. A lot of people in life do not sit back and take the time to ask, what do you want? So for me, within that fight camp, I had to ask myself, what do you want? Because if I don't know what I want, there's no way I'm going to go through this brutal process, right? And that was the first question. The second question is, how badly do you want it? Now, that question is about what are you willing to give up in your life?
Yeah.
Are you willing to clean up your diet and give up all of those things?
Yeah. It's something that came in my head when you said it, but go ahead.
Yeah. Are you willing to give up all those night outs that you go out with your friends and just wreak havoc on your diet, right? If you're doing this fight camp, are you willing to give up those hours of Netflix and get that 8 hours of sleep that you need? Right. So how badly do you want it? And the third question I had to answer every single day that I drove to that gym was, how much are you willing to suffer? How much are you willing to suffer for it? So what do you want? How badly do you want it? How much are you willing to suffer? If an athlete can answer those 3 questions, they're on their way to do amazing things. And that's what going through that fight camp taught me. Every single day, I would ask myself those questions, and I would go in there and suffer in training, man. And ultimately, when I got into the fight, it was a whole different experience. Maybe we can talk about that too.
Yeah, definitely. What came in my head, man, was when you said, like, what are you willing to how badly do you want it, or what are you willing to give up? I remember sitting down with this girl, becoming a client and everything. She was really ready to do it, and she's, pretty much signed up for it and so forth. Until we got to the part where I was explaining about the diet part, where that's most of the goal. And she looked at that and I'm not. She thinking, so she looked at that and said, I can't do this, and everything. And I'm like, what's going on? You ready? Yeah, I know I can't. I can't do that. And I ain't trying to change my diet and all this stuff like that. So what the hell you expect to get the goal? I guess I'm not gonna get it. So I think when it comes to fitness, it parallels and everything. Like I told you, like we always talked about before, everything that you do in life. So So with that said, most people think about when it comes to fitness that it's only the workout portion that's gonna get them to the goal. They don't never think about. I ain't gonna say never. They don't hardly think about the diet part and what it takes when we say diet. They just think, okay, if I ate a salad, ate some fruit, we good. As I ain't eating too much, then we good. It's more to it than that. And also it's a little bit, like, again, how you rest and the other stuff that you're doing outside of the eating and working out. It goes into play. And I think a lot of folks don't realize that once they understand it and get into it, they can go into a full head with it and be more successful, I say. And that's why I always use you as an example, because, as I say, like, man, I tell him what to do, he go ahead and execute it and so forth. So it's just about, what's at stake. But with that said, now, was it any time you were doing and going through those punches and and doing the fight camp and so forth, was it any time like saying, man, I'm gonna leave it alone, or maybe I need to stop? You know what I'm saying? I tried it. Maybe I need to turn around. Was there any time that you was thinking that?
Good question. So I would answer that no, there wasn't a time where I wanted to quit the sport.
Okay.
There were times where I wanted to quit the workout. There were times a lot of times where midway through the workout, your mind starts to play tricks on you, man. Your mind starts to find any excuse. You start to feel a little bit of an ache in your leg, which is nothing, by the way. You're like, maybe there's something there and I need to take a break, right?
Again.
So that's exactly. Yeah. That's kind of where my mind was, is I wasn't willing to quit the sport. As I mentioned to you, right, I was in this fight, in this training camp to prove to myself that I wasn't a coward. I wasn't a loser, and that I could fight. And that's where I said mixed martial arts saved my life. I meant that in the sense that that fight, in my mind, training up to it, I told myself that if I do not go out and walk into that octagon during fight night and fight, I'm pretty much done, in the sense that I don't know if I can ever go out there and take another risk and go out there and go try something else and go out there and do something. If I do not do this thing that I've set to do, then who am I, right? There's no way I'm going to be the same person for the rest of my life. I'm going to think of myself as a coward. And that was what was going on through my mind, that there is no world where I do not go and fight. Win or lose, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to prove to myself that I am not a loser, and I'm not going to let fear hold me back from doing this. So that is the passion and the fire that I had. And that is what kept me going within this camp. So I never really had a thought that I wanted to quit and walk away from it. And as I mentioned, it was only workouts where I wanted to quit, but I couldn't, because I had a coach who was watching me. And you have to suffer through that, right? And that's what builds character.
Right.
So going through that fight really solidified in my mind that you are still that same child who had that passion to be great in all those dreams. And now all you got to do is just go out there and do it.
Yeah. Okay. Like that. And I get you. So now we getting into the fight, like with your first fight. And I think you won like second or third place for the grappling.
So the first one was a grappling tournament, a jiu-jitsu tournament. I got second place in that one.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, I mean, we can talk about both accounts or within each other and so forth. So like, how was that, winning that grappling contest? That's more like definitely confirmation. Okay. Everything that I've been training for, fighting for, building my confidence and everything leads up to this moment, and I got it, and so how did that feel? What was you going through? What was going through your head and mind before the fight, after the fight, for the grappling, as well as the full MMA fight too as well? Those parallels, talk about those parallels between both two as well.
Yeah. So what that grappling match did for me, right, is first of all, you have to go through fight camp again, right? It's grappling. It's not mixed martial arts, but regardless, you have to be in shape. You have to wrestle a lot. And it's a brutal fight camp too, especially if you're going to train very hard with tough people, right? And if you have a tough coach, it's a brutal fight camp. I can't speak for any other coach out there. But what that grappling match reminded me of is the athlete that I was in high school and in university, right? I used to compete in sports. I used to go and win in sports and, get handshake, a little medal.
What sports are those, by the way?
Yeah. So I played a lot of tennis. I played a lot of soccer. I did cross country. I was doing swimming, right? All of these different sports. And I would win in a lot of them. And I would get that confidence that, hey, I can go out there and face some of the best people that are around in my area and win. So doing that grappling match, training up for it and going in there and getting second place reminded me of that person, that, man, okay, this is who I am. Yeah. This is what I do. This is what makes me feel alive. For me, it's always about the physical. It's always about the physical, because that energy has to go somewhere, right? And carrying that over into the mixed martial arts fight now was very interesting, right? We already talked about the brutality of going through fight camp and the mental aspect of going through fight camp that you have to go through, of waking up with your body feeling absolutely beat down, and then thinking that, man, okay, at 7 p.m. tonight, I have to go do it all over again, right? It's like, how am I going to do that?
Yeah.
And ultimately getting into the fight. It's a very interesting thing, because when I got to the fight, I wasn't nervous.
Okay.
And the day before, we do all the weigh-ins, all the ceremonial things, right? Got to meet my opponent. He's a little bit taller than me, and still I wasn't afraid. The day of the fight, You just relax. You're trying to get your mind off things, chat with family and friends, laugh around, right? Just stay loose, stay relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
When you get to the time where you're lining up to make your entrance and get out, right? At that point, just something just clicked in my head, right? I became an entertainer, which naturally from playing sports as a young kid, that's what I was all about, right? I was all about winning, but I liked to put on a show. I like to entertain people. So going out there, walking out, seeing everybody, seeing all the cameras, seeing all the lights did not shake me at all. And it
Okay.
felt very natural. It felt very normal. And I remember standing in that arena and looking around and seeing everybody and seeing
Mm-hmm.
the octagon and the lights shining down on the octagon. And I just remember thinking to myself, this will not be the last time that I'm in here. I'm going to be in here
Okay.
again and again and again
Okay.
and again. And I walked into that cage.
Mm.
And when I walked into that cage, they locked the door behind you.
Yeah.
And once you get in there, it's you, your opponent, and the ref. And everything else around disappears. The
Yeah.
crowd disappears. You don't hear them cheering. You don't hear them booing if they are. You don't hear clapping, nothing. Your mind is so sharp and is so focused on that fight that I can hear my opponent breathing from across the octagon. And when the ref starts the fight, he also disappears. He's in there, right? When you're
Yeah.
watching in TV, you're watching fights, you see the ref, right?
I just about to say that they disappeared. They put those certain nuances, like you saying, in there. Yeah.
Exactly. So you see the ref before the fight, but when the fight starts to go, all of a sudden, like your mind just cancels him out, and now you're so sharp and focused on your opponent, and you're just go go go. And I just went. I had no fear. I had no hesitation. There was no nervousness, nothing. And a lot of that was not because I'm something special, right? A lot of that was because of the work that we put in, the amount of training we put in before the fight. We did every single thing that we possibly could, me and my coach and you, my trainer, right? We ate, we lifted, we made sure our nutrition was on point. And just going into there, I just knew that however this thing lands, I've done everything I can. And went in there, had a battle with my opponent. His name is Christian Walker. Very awesome guy. And ultimately, I lost a decision after 3 rounds of going after it. And I just remember after the fight, right, walking to the back and chatting with my coach. And I don't know where this came from, Trey, but I just remember looking at my coach, and all of a sudden, for the first time since I was a child, I just started crying. And it just, tears were pouring out of me. And the only thing I was telling my coach is, Coach, we did everything right. We did everything right. And I just remember thinking, sometimes in life, you can do everything right. You can do everything right, and things might not still go your way.
Yeah, definitely.
It just might not happen. So it's the thing I also preach on Be Unafraid is, yes, I'm telling you that you do this thing, you're going to get progress, but you also have to realize there is a world where you go after something and it might not happen. But that doesn't mean it's the end of the world. You need to pivot and figure out how to make it happen a different way, or how to make something else happen. So that night where I was emotional because we put every single thing that we could, my coach, you, our nutrition, our workout, but I just didn't get the victory. It didn't mean that it was the end of the world. So it took me a couple of days to get over that, but ultimately that was the experience for the fight there.
Yeah, and I think too that stops a lot of people. You know, they can say I did everything. I read these books. I don't looked at these YouTube, tutorials, and don't had this mentor. Still don't work the way I wanted to go. And I think that stop a lot of people from even doing something, or while they in it, they end up quitting. But you not quitting definitely speaks, paramounts to what you're doing. And it was a couple of things that you said too as well. Everything that led up to, for as you being in the sport so much, led up into when you got into MMA. You were like, oh, this is where want to be. I think too, with us being athletes, and so I played basketball in high school and everything. I think once an athlete, always an athlete. You find some kind of way to fill that void of competition, and so you're gonna find it some kind of way. I think that's something I think athletes look at once the sports ain't there, and they need to find something else that fills that void for them to be competitive with and everything. But with that said, also too, what you were saying when you got there, you was saying this is where I belong. So you felt like it was home once you got there. I think that's important feeling people need to realize too as well. Once you're doing it, how do you feel when you're doing it? Do it feel like it's forced? Do it feel like, do you not like it? Do you feel like it's not you? Whatever the case. I think, just not just doing something to be just doing something. I don't think that's healthy to do. But while you in it, kind of self-checking in with yourself, like what's your feelings and actions around whatever it is that you're going for, that you said you want to go for. Yeah, it might have been something you wanted to do, but while you in it, how are you feeling? So I think that's important to talk about as well. In that, do you feel like this is home to you? Do you feel like this is what you should be doing? And with the podcast as well, I felt that. Like with me starting this podcast, Sculpt N Create, I was like something I wanted to actually do in the foreground for artists and entertainers, but it was like I wasn't planning on doing it so quickly. It might have been something on my radar for next year, but not right now. But something that led me to where I need to go ahead and start it. And then as I got into it, started doing it more and more. I really like doing it. It doesn't, it feels like I always been doing it, and so it feels like, it felt normal and natural to me. So that was keeping me to do it now, because it's definitely, like I told you before, it's a lot of work. So you got to just really know what you want to do, and then while you in it, see how you feel while in it. You don't want to just be doing it, prove a point or prove somebody wrong in that fashion. But you want to make sure it is really what you want to do. Does it feel like you and something you can see yourself doing for a long all the time? Now, with that said too as well, now you said you got another fight coming up in January that you're working towards. You in fight camp right now. So do you have an opponent yet? We ain't really talked about it much. We said you've been saying you're gonna do a call, so let's talk about it now. And everything.
Yeah.
You said that you in fight camp. You're supposed to be starting in January. Do you have an opponent now? And I know it's boxing. The fighting that you're finna do is boxing and so forth. So what's the preparation for that? What's the mindset for that? And what's the protocol and going through that and everything as well?
Yeah, 100%. To answer your question, yes, I do have an opponent for the fight, cool. And it's going to be on January 10th, so it's confirmed.
Okay.
We'll definitely be fighting for sure on that. So super excited about that. And just to kind of roll it back a little bit on how I got into boxing, right, from mixed martial arts. So training in mixed martial arts, right? I was living in Louisiana at the time. That's where I was training mixed martial arts.
All right. Hold on, and before you do that, so it's not considered mixed martial art. It's just, so you're going into boxing now, or is it just like a juncture, or a cross path to getting back into the MMA, or how is that?
Yeah, so this is pure boxing.
Okay.
Pure boxing. Yeah, pure boxing. So I'll explain a little bit of my mindset with the boxing, right? So training in mixed martial arts. I was training in mixed martial arts in Louisiana. And then about a year ago, I moved over into Washington State, right?
Okay.
And at the time, I kind of stopped training in mixed martial arts, and we continued to do our working out and our workouts and our meal plans. So I stayed in pretty good shape, but it took me about 4 to 5 months to get back into it. And I know you remember this, right? Me chatting with you about some of that too. And a lot of that had to do with an injury that I had with my back,
with your back,
late last year, right? So that kind of put me out for a little bit, and I didn't want to come back. I didn't have that confidence to come back because I didn't want to hurt my back again. So I had to work through all of that and build that back up. And ultimately, I joined a gym over here because I sat back again. I looked at my life and I said, man, remember when I went into that octagon, and I remember walking those bright lights, and I remember feeling that I'm built for this. I'm meant to be under the bright lights. This feels like home. I couldn't shake that out of my head, and I said, I have to get back into this world because now I love to do it. Before I was doing it to prove something to myself, but now I'm doing it because I love the sport, right? And I want to continue to prove to myself that I can keep fighting and I still have it in me, right? So I joined a mixed martial arts gym here
Okay.
in Washington State. And the thing about the gyms here, especially downtown, is you have a lot more people. It's a bigger state, it's more condensed, it's a lot less rural where I live. And it was a huge gym. So they had mixed martial arts, they had boxing, they had kickboxing, they had jujitsu, they had judo, they have all of those things. So I decided that, you know what? I'm a mixed martial artist. That's what I love to do. That was my first thing. And I'm going to get back to that, but I just want to have a try. I just want to have a try at all these other things.
Okay.
In my life, I might not have this opportunity again. I still have youth on my side. I still have time on my side. Let me go try this boxing class. Let me go try this pure kickboxing class. Let me go try this judo, jujitsu class, right? And just see which ones I like and not do it because I want to compete. And you and I talked about this when I first got back into training, that for now, I'm just focusing on going in and training and just enjoying the process.
Okay.
And then you meet people, right? You meet other friends. And all of a sudden, I met a boxing coach who was teaching the boxing class. And I had one class with him. I had one class with him where I really enjoyed the class. He taught the fundamentals in a way that I've never been taught before in boxing. And I wanted to get better at that and grow at that. I told him, hey, I'd like to work one-on-one with you to do boxing lessons like once a week. And he said, okay, sure. You know, I'd love to take you on and we will just hit pads and we'll work on some things, right? So I started doing that, and then I got more and more into boxing. I started doing more and more into in the classes, and then I started just falling in love with the art of boxing and everything there is about boxing and all the fundamentals and footwork and all the different types of head movements and all of those things. And I decided to myself that, you know what? I love this thing that I'm doing right now. I want to improve at this thing. I want to get better at it. I want to box at a very high level. And maybe I even want to win a championship in boxing. So in order for me to do that, I have to dedicate myself to it. I can't be a generalist and spread myself across these different, you know, kickboxing, jujitsu, mixed martial arts, and boxing, and then try to win boxing matches, right? That's not how it happens. You have to pick one and go all in if you really want to compete at that level, right? In amateur boxing. So I said, I'm going to dedicate a year to boxing. I'm going to have a try at this thing and dedicate a year, go in it 100% for a year, and then let's reevaluate and see, maybe I don't enjoy it anymore after a year and I'll go back to mixed martial arts, which I love. Or maybe I love boxing so much that I decide to stay with boxing, right? Anything can happen in this sport. So that's how I got into boxing. And then working with this coach and having had fight experiences before, he asked me and he said, I have some fights coming up next year around January, February timeframe. Do you want to fight? Do you want to have a try? And again, this time, the difference between the first time in mixed martial arts where I didn't have the confidence to say yes and my coach had to say yes for me, the difference is this time I immediately said yes, I want to fight because I've built that experience of that confidence, right, from mixed martial arts. So we decided that we were going to schedule me to go in and fight in January 10th. And now I'm in training camp. I've been in training camp and working through prepping for that fight. So that's kind of where I am now.
Okay. All right. So that's new to me too as well. I knew about the boxing, but I didn't know this was like full fledged. I just thought it was like a overlay until we get back to the mixed martial arts. I didn't know there was like this is actual like we full force with it. Okay. So that new. So like I said, we ain't talk about none of this, man.
In a while, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So yeah. Okay. All right, cool. So January 10th. And so you say you more, as you stated, you feeling more confident than you ever did before when you first did your first MMA match and so forth. So what has this experience been like with the boxing and in this juncture of it, starting out and everything like that? Like how has this experience been for you compared to MMA with boxing?
Yeah, it's been a lot similar with mixed martial arts, right? Because the level of intensity again that you train is pretty much the same. There's really no
Okay.
difference. The only difference is mixed martial arts, has different takedowns and kickboxing and stuff. And boxing is just pure boxing. But how you condition and train is
Mm,
equally as brutal.
okay.
So it's been the same. And one of the things that's come up, and one of the things that I've had to deal with again is that self talk, that voice. Even though I fought before and I've experienced and I've been under the bright lights in mixed martial arts,
Yeah.
going into boxing now and training, like I said, yes, I'm more confident than I've ever been. But
Mm,
still within my head, there's doubt. Still within my head, there's that voice that comes up that you're in way over yourself and you're not as good as you think, right? Or why are you doing this? Like all of these things still come up. The only difference now is I've learned how to handle those better. And I've also learned to understand that most of that is not true at all. And you can counteract that with positivity. You can counteract that with hard work. And when you put in work, you're ultimately going to get the result, right? It's
mhm.
just that simple. So
Yeah.
that's been my experience here in boxing is I've been enjoying
Okay.
the process. I've been enjoying the art of boxing is what I like to call it. And
Okay. Cool.
the ups and downs. I've had good days where I felt great, felt good. I was
Mm,
moving well.
yeah.
I've had bad days where I still show up and maybe your legs are a little tired or you've had a long day at work, right? Or you're just not there. You're half a step behind, right? Those happen. So dealing with all of those things, I'm better equipped at that now since this is my second go at it. And I feel good about the work that I'm putting in. I feel good about the training that I'm putting
Okay.
in. And I respect the sport. I respect the art. I respect my opponent. But I also respect the fact that I've put in more work than my opponent has. And we've prepped more than he has. And
Okay.
walking into that boxing ring, I'm very confident that I'm going to get the result that I want to get.
Talking like a true competitor. He ain't put in the work that I did.
100%.
Yeah, you did it a very humble and sort of way, but you could have said like, no, he ain't did what I did, so I know I got this. You know what I'm saying? But he ain't do it that way. But I got you.
Yeah,
That.
that's exactly what I was saying, man.
Yeah. Okay. Cool, man. So, man, and like you said again, is in January 10th. Will it be televised?
This one, I don't think so because it's a smaller promotion
Okay.
that's
Okay.
doing this one. So I don't think they'll be televising this, but there's going to be plenty more this year where we're going to try to go for the bigger promotions that will be televised like the last one. So
Okay. All right. Cool.
somebody will have a video of it.
But yeah, yeah, so you're gonna be somebody gonna have their phone out, give it a clip or something like that. Maybe, somebody, the guy that you training under his gym and so forth, probably have a small cameraman to do
I think
certain
so.
things. Yeah, so it might be something like that. I got you. Okay. But definitely, ma'am, I've been, I say I'm with you every step of the way, every journey that you take and everything for you and stuff like that. So I'm definitely excited to be on this journey again with you on this second round, this second hurrah,
Mm.
with the boxing now from the MMA, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it takes you in this juncture of your fighting competitive career and so forth. And let's talk about a little bit about the fitness side of things, and then we can kind of wrap it up and everything from there. So I remember, man, when you first came to me, and I think we've been working together almost 5 years now. So, and when you first came, five, maybe a little bit more than that. Going, I had to look and see, but yeah, I remember when you first came. It's funny because your first goal was just to lose a little bit of weight. You weren't very overweight or anything like that. You just want to lose a little weight, gain a little muscle, and so forth. And every time I told you, I use you as an example. Every time somebody asks, if I'm talking to sitting down, somebody I'm looking like, look, this is where I got Fortune, and look, this is where you was, this is where you at now. And it's crazy that when you first came, okay, I just want to lose a little weight, gain a little muscle. You reach that goal, achieve that goal, then you change. Okay, I want to gain a little weight, or you know what I'm saying, I want to do this a little bit more, and you kept achieving it. So that I think that speaks paramount to where you getting to this point. You always looked at a challenge and then rise to the occasion, achieve it, and then went to the next step. Like you said in there, I think you said a book or is a YouTube. You saying
Book.
it's a book, okay? Yeah, like what's next? And I like that. Again, that speaks to next world fitness again. So, what would you say? When you came there, you told me like how you came to me and so forth. But what would you say, like, in the juncture of when you first started to now? Like, what was that experience like? What was your thinking then? And then going through it, like achieving all the goals, evolving, seeing your body change and morph into something. What was those feelings like and changes like? What was the process like? And then evolving to going to MMA, opening up those next doors for you and all that. Talk about that.
Yeah, no, that's 100% good question. And 5 years. Wow. I hadn't even thought about how long we've been together. 5 years. That's yeah. Wow. Wow. That's been a while. Yeah. I just thinking back when we first met, like you mentioned, my goal was to lose fat, lose weight. And, I talked about it a little bit. It was where felt like I was probably the most out of shape I've ever been. And, somebody else might look at my pictures and say, oh, you weren't really that out of shape. But you know how it is. You know how it is, especially for some of us men, right? And I would say the difference between that Fortune and the Fortune now is that Fortune didn't feel like himself. He didn't feel like that version of himself that could walk around with his head held high because he knew where he wanted to go and he knew how capable he was to get things done that he wanted to get. Now it's still the same person, but more confident now. Still the same person, but more bold in how I live, more bold in how I proclaim the things that I want to do, and have sort of morphed into what I think is a good lane for me to be in. Granted, there's a lot of growth that has yet to happen, and 10 years from now, could be a completely next version of myself, right? But going through that fitness journey with you, it's changed the very trajectory of my life. I don't know if I would be where I'm today in terms of where I live, the job I have, the ability to do mixed martial arts, to do boxing, to travel, all these different things. I don't think I would be in this place if I hadn't answered that question of, hey, do you need help?
Okay.
And realizing that there are people out there that can help, and then you reaching out and me feeling like I could trust you because of the way you reached out, right? And the things that you were talking about and how you were speaking about me specifically, my goals, what I wanted, not what you wanted, right? Because a lot of people can reach out and talk about, here's what I can do for you. We can do this. No. You took the time to say, hey, let's sit down, talk about you. What are your struggles, pain points? What do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish? Okay, now let me tell you how to do it in the way that I know best to do it. And it worked. It worked. So I think that journey brought me back to that how good version of me that felt like he could do anything in life. And that's where I am right now. Still go through struggles, still go through ups and downs. Life's not perfect. There's days where I feel good, days where I don't feel good. But ultimately, that confidence that, hey, I just got to keep it pushing, find something I want to do and give it my all. Just give it my all and things will happen. And if it doesn't happen, go find something else to give my all to.
Yeah. Most definitely, and I agree. Like I said, every time you achieve a goal, like what's next. I tell people, man, Cause I can't even count how many times you don't set a goal and achieve it. We don't, I had that little bar thing on there a couple times, and like, I tell people like, achieve that goal, reach it, achieve that goal, and it'd be new things and stuff like that. And like I said, that speaks paramount to what you're doing now. You going, whether you achieve at it or not, you keep going forward and going to the next thing, the next step, and everything. And like I said, you leading up to you going full force with boxing speaks to that whole story, from start to finish right now. Now you said trust, you believe that you can trust me. Like I want to talk on that. What made you think that you can trust me? Or what made it where you felt like you could trust me?
I felt that you really cared about seeing me make progress more than you cared about just getting another client
Okay.
and getting money out of them, right? As you mentioned, that space that you're in, it's very cutthroat, and there's a lot of people that aren't that honest, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
do it, to make money out of it. So for them, it's all about that, and it's less about how they change that client's life. So talking to you, I felt that yes, right, you have to make money. You're running a business at the end of the day, but also the primary thing for you was, if you can change my life, if you can help me accomplish my goals, then the rest will come. That's the vibe that I got, that, okay, he really wants me to change and succeed. And I saw that in the level of accountability that you offered. I saw that in you checking the meal plans, sending the messages, the accountability pictures. Hey, it's this time of the day. I haven't seen you log your stats yet. What's going on?
Yeah.
All those little things, right?
Yeah.
Those are
I got
things that a lot of people, a lot of trainers don't do for their clients, right? But only somebody who cares will actually take the time to do those things. And it makes me feel that, wow, okay, he's really into this and really cares about the progress, right? So that right there made me trust you. And as you can see, we've been together for 5 years, and we about to go through 2 fights together, right? So
definitely.
it's definitely built over the years.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I definitely, when I'm checking in, which I got to see what's going on and everything. I always tell people, man, like, even though I'm online and so forth, it ain't gonna feel like it. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm gonna check on you. And some people, and it's weird though. Some people don't even want that much accountability. So I have been like that with people, and they were like, they shut down. You know what I'm saying? But I'm like, I really want you to achieve your goals. Like, you came to me for a reason. So let's do it. And everything. You know what I'm saying? I'm invested as much as I'm hoping you are invested in and stuff like that too as well. It ain't, like I said again, it ain't about just X and O's or numbers. I'm trying to fill up or whatever, but nah, I really want you to get reach to your goal, because I know what it did. I know how I felt when I first started working out, and the confidence it gave. I think that's the word of this whole episode is confidence. The confidence that it gave to me when I first started. Once I started, started looking a certain way, was always getting attention, but I got even more attention, from women and stuff like that. And people, guys are walking up to me wanting to work out and with me, and having me like, man, you big, and giving me the compliments, stuff like that. So all that, gave me more confidence and everything, that led to me actually starting Next World Fitness later on. Similar to like when somebody said you wanted to fight, you said like, you ever thought about training? And at that point, I wasn't, you doing all this working out, you might well work, think about a person training. I looked into it and seen it was something I could do, and then the rest of history from there. But definitely, man, like I said, but like I said, working with you and like executing, like I said, like I said, I always use you as an example. I have other clients I have gotten goals to, but you by far is the one that definitely, like, when I tell you or help you with something, you like execute it and everything. Like, even if you like fully, like, you'll go in, if you'll go into it, maybe not fully understanding me and everything like that or whatever, and then I kind of reroute you and stuff like that. Like, oh, okay, you you take that criticism or that critique. I ain't gonna say criticism, the critiquing, and you work on it and stuff like that, and then we get to a certain place, and then once we get you to that place, and you go smooth sailing. I ain't gotta really like check on you as much. I just gotta just check in with you, see how everything going, and so forth. And we know each other now to a great degree. I ain't gonna say a certain degree, a great degree where we can kind of know how to what to expect from each other, and everything, how we move, how what you got going on, and your in alignment. I think that's something important too. I always try to get a relationship with my clients and everything as well. So once I know you more, know more about what you're doing, how your life is and stuff like that, I can help you a whole lot better, other than just surface level stuff, and everything. So I think that speaks to that too. But yeah, so now what would you say now, since you've been doing MMA, now you're doing boxing, how do you think the working out over the years up until this point has went into your not only your confidence, but the progress into your fighting and your skills and so forth?
Yeah, no, 100%. As you can, you can attest to, our workouts have changed, right? So when I first came up to you, it was about losing weight, losing fat, building muscle at some point,
Right.
and all of that. And now,
getting stronger, stuff like that. But that's why I say keep changing every time. But go ahead.
100%. And now, as I've grown and I've now gone into competitive fighting, right, in amateur mixed martial arts and boxing now, our workouts now have had to change to supplement that. They have to change to now become a performance enhancer for those workouts. Now, whereas I used to lift weights and try to get big and try to get more muscle, now I need to train for boxing. I need to train for explosion. I need to train to be able to have shoulder endurance, right? To be able to move laterally back and forth, right? So
them rotator cuffs.
Exactly, rotator cuffs, all of that. So now it's changed to those types of workouts too as well. And as I've changed, Next World Fitness, you also have changed with me, I believe, too as well, right? There's, you can probably talk about this more, but I feel like maybe there's been growth in your aspect of being a trainer now, that you're having to put together plans for these specific sports before, that you may not have had to do in that detail before. So that, I think that's also helped both of us in that sense, right?
Yeah, most definitely. And as I alluded to that earlier, is like, when you change, we kind of like changing together on a lot of things, not with each other and outside of each other as well. Like, I said I'm doing this podcast, well, I'm doing this MMA, and I'm doing this. Okay, well, I'm doing my podcast. You were saying you're doing your podcast, stuff like that. So we were changing outside of each other, but within, when we talk about the fitness stuff, yes, with you changing, like I said, I haven't really worked with a lot of athletes. I have worked with a couple of them here and there, and at this juncture of me looking to help artists and entertainers, when you think about how they move and like they are constantly on the road, they schedule is very hectic. So it's hard for them to really get a fitness routine in and diet regimen going, but they still need their body to be fully sound, and their mind to be fully sound. Depending on what they're doing, if they're on stage, they acting for a particular role, they got this performance in there. So I I know I need to start working towards performance more, and mobility more and so forth. This definitely, when you got into it, okay, this helps me to kind of segue more into that, to get that practice in more in working with somebody who needs more performance, more so than just the quote unquote aesthetics or just particular weight loss and building muscle and strength or whatever. Now the performance part is in there more. So it definitely helped me to, because you being a boxer or MMA fighter and so forth, you still an entertainer. So it's still, because folks coming to watch you and see, they want to be entertained in some sense and everything. So y'all kind of get roped into that. So definitely, so it's like, as I was segue into that, you was moving, and like I was making the decision to go into that, you was already going to the MMA thing. Like that, like it was like we were moving along right with each other in different aspects, but still again together, and it's crazy how it happened like that. But yeah, so definitely, man, when you start doing that, so that it definitely helps me more to like get in that frame of mind of performance workouts, how to eat for more for performance than it is just for lifting weight for bodybuilding, strengthening, and weight loss and so forth.
100%, 100%. And I think that's super awesome. It again, next world fitness, right? We're both very similar in that aspect. We're always chasing after that next thing.
And I think too, I always say this about creators. I always been a more of a creative spirit way before fitness became a thing in my life and everything. I always like to be creative. So being a creator, being in sports, being competitive and stuff like that, you always looking for the next thing. Like you're always thinking about how you can constantly push the boundaries, how you can constantly reinvent yourself and everything as a creator. So you always want to, do something creatively, no matter if it's like in the arts and entertainment space or it can be as in competitive and fighting and everything like that. It's some way you trying to reinvent yourself in some kind of way. And that's what I think Next World Fitness speaks to. And also Sculpt N Create this podcast speaks to as well, and so forth. So, but yeah, with that said though, man, I don't want to hold you too much longer. This is about the longest I don't ran on the podcast. But definitely, man, been an interesting conversation. I love where we're going. We definitely can talk about some other things. With that said, is there anything else that you wanted to discuss or that we haven't talked about?
I think we've covered pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. So I think we're good there.
Okay. All right, cool. So now with that said, now for everybody out there that's afraid of going for that goal, starting that business, wanting to make music, wanting to act, model, wanting to fight, box, do MMA, whatever, what would you say to that person starting toward their goals? How do they break that fear? How do they start going into what it is that they want to do and be?
My biggest advice to that person is don't be afraid to try and to give it your all. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. I don't have anything complicated or very philosophical to say because I truly, truly believe that it's very simple.
Okay.
You just have to try, go after it, give it your all, and then see where you land. See where you land. If you want to try a new sport, go locally and find where they do it and ask, can I join in? If you want to make music, in this day and age, there's no excuse for you to not go on YouTube, right? And to go learn from somebody how to make beats, how to edit music, right? How to make videos. If you want to be in the podcasting business, nowadays we have cell phones, which you can immediately do podcasts on, right? There's no need to complicate it. We complicate it because we're human beings and we think everything should have this magic answer and that you should wake up every single day and just have this aha moment that, this is exactly what it is.
Right.
But no, just don't be afraid to try and give it your all. Whatever you pick, give it your all and then see what happens from there. Because I guarantee you, when you give it your all in something, even if it doesn't work out, you're going to have a feeling that, I think I can do this again in this area. I guarantee it. Give it your all. That's my advice.
Okay. I like that. And one last question, like what would you say has been we talked about a great deal. You're almost at 2 hours here. And what would you say has been the biggest, what would you say is the biggest takeaway that they can get from this conversation today that we had?
The biggest takeaway is that you can always choose to look at life as a story and look at yourself as the hero of your own journey. Wake up every single morning, put it into your mind that you are a hero going on a journey. And instead of letting fate write your story for you, you have the ability to start to write a few things of your own. It doesn't have to be these massive, big changes that you want to make in life, right? It's not always about huge jumping. It's about the little things. So you can choose to say, this morning, I'm going to wake up and do this little thing right here. And then those little things will build up, right? And that's the biggest takeaway I would say is choose to live your life as if you were the hero of your own story. That's one of the greatest quotes I've ever heard, and one that I remind myself every single day, that heroes go out, they suffer, but then they conquer and come out of it stronger.
All right. Okay. Definitely. I like that, man. I appreciate you for sharing that as well. All right. So with that said, man, we're going to end on that note. Now, let everybody know again where they can find you, the podcast. If you have any services, anything for them, let them know, or however, let them know, set it. So whatever links you want to set out and them finding you and so forth.
Yep. Main platform is on YouTube, Be Unafraid Podcast, Spotify Podcast, Apple Podcast, or any other podcast hosting platform. You will find me there at Be Unafraid with Fortune Mazhambe. Right now, I don't have any products or any services to sell. Eventually, I'll get there. But for now, I'm more obsessed with sharing really this message of Be Unafraid. And it's free. It's free out there. I share those things, and then take a listen if you're interested in self-growth and development.
Yeah. Okay. Definitely. And it definitely get there with the podcast, who knows, we can get to a point where you getting brand deals, ad deals and stuff like that, from it and so forth. And other people wanted to get your knowledge in some kind of way. So it can definitely arise from you doing the Be Unafraid podcast itself. And, so definitely much success to you in that. Much success to you with your boxing. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be your referee, on the other side of the ropes, and stuff like that and everything. So, and excited to see where this takes you in your journey. You know what I'm saying? I'm like I always been telling you, man, I'm rocking with you all the way, So with that said, man, we're going to end on that note. I've been your host, Trey the Fit Artist of Sculpt N Create. My guest, Fortune Mazhambe. And we out.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode. If you enjoyed it, be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. If you're looking for fitness coaching to help you reach your goals, want to join our animated network for fitness guidance, collaborations, networking, and community, or are interested in being a guest on the show, check out the links in the description. Stay creative, stay fit, and we'll holler at you next time.